how do you get your emotional self bought into this idea that you will be okay and you just need to breathe and everything's going to be fine?
Well, you know, I am a big fan of the concept of emotional buttons, which we talk about on the retreat. They are kind of triggers for that act as a kind of way of redirecting our emotions to somewhere we want to go. So, for example, the emotional response you just talked about was that of, I feel like in some way I've screwed it up with this person and now they're not going to be into me, and my emotional, you know, despite the idea that there's plenty more fish in the sea and blah, 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 my emotional experience is, yeah, but I really like this one. And I haven't met anyone in a long time. And this feels like it felt special. And I don't want to blow this. I really want it to work. And now I'm hating on myself that I did something that maybe has pushed them away. An emotional button would be like a trigger that you could insert there that would instantly give you a different feeling.
And therefore allow you to act differently, more importantly.
Yeah, because it changes your whole temperature. It changes the emotional environment that you're operating in. So, for example, an emotional button for this could be, you don't have to get a perfect score when it's the right person. Mm. Your anxiety, the emotion is feeding on this idea that you screwed it up. The emotional button can be, actually, when it's the right person, you don't need to get a perfect score. Not needing to get a perfect score might actually be much more of an indicator that you're with the right person than attracting someone because you got a perfect score on all of your behavior and didn't do anything wrong and didn't put a single foot out of line and never said anything stupid or never, you know, pushed a little bit too hard in an area. That your person is someone you don't need to have a perfect score with. So that, even just that thought, which is an interrupting thought, can be an emotional button for realizing that actually some messiness along the way can be part of you realizing you're with the right person, because the right person will make space for you, for who you actually are.
And if you're wondering, you know, you're like, yeah, that wouldn't work for me. That thought wouldn't work for me, which I think a lot of people would be thinking. Like, yeah, but that's like, you're just placating yourself. It's like, it wouldn't actually make me feel better. You have a whole mechanism on how to actually make it stick, right? How to actually make it something that you're not just abstractly thinking and telling yourself. Like, it's not just some affirmation you don't believe in.
The whole point of emotional buttons is that you find something that is real to you. So what works for me as an emotional button might not work for you. You create them based on what really speaks to you. Like, I have emotional buttons that make me go to the gym. They may not work to get you to the gym. So when we're doing these exercises to create these, it's intensely specific for each person. But the point I'm making for our purposes right now is simply that you can fight emotion with emotion. Mm-hmm. You don't always have to fight emotion with logic. There can be an equally powerful emotional concept or core that you use to interrupt the anxiety that you're feeling right now.
I often find changing even the emotion I'm associating with the behavior they're showing is really powerful for me as well. Where someone giving you one-word answers and being flaky, if you can change that emotion to, that's boring, that means this person is wrong for me, that means we're not very compatible, or connect it to your needs. I need consistency. I can't be in a relationship where I have to do the perfect move every time. Like, that's not going to work. If you can do that, you don't fear it so much. You actually just take it as information.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I suppose for anyone listening who feels like they're not connected to their needs, and, you know, because there's a bunch of people who will be like, but I just need them to like me. I don't forget about me, forget about what I want, forget about what makes me happy. I just need them to like me, because then if they like me, I can just at least relax, exhale, feel safe, and then I can decide whether I actually want to be with them. But like, until I feel safe and I feel like they actually like me, I can't relax. I think for people who are feeling that way, it's really important as well to remember that you have probably overcome a lot of hardship in your life that you also didn't think you could get over. You know, it's like when you're going through a breakup, you've probably been through heartbreak before. You've probably been through a lot of very, very painful emotions where you said to yourself, I'll never get over this. This is the worst I'm ever going to feel. And here you are today, not caring about that thing back then, but caring so deeply about this thing today. And so there's something interesting about that. Our anxiety makes us think, it's very centralizing, and it really makes us think like there is nothing more important and more terrible than this thing that we're focusing on. You know, it's very like...
Yeah.
Anxiety narrows your focus, and that's
Yeah.
the danger of it. And you want things that make you more expansive. It's like if you have one failure in a part of your career, one of the mindset shifts you can just have is just take a much more expansive view of what your opportunity set is. Like, this is just one point in the big circle of all the possibilities. There's tons of points of things you could do in your career right now, options, things you could create, people you could reach out to. If you can start expanding your focus to what other things are possible right now, what could I be curious about? What are 3 other opportunities I could pursue if this doesn't work out? You start to just give yourself that exhale. Like, yeah, I might be sad if this goes. Like, acknowledge it. It's okay. I might be sad if this person decides I'm not right for them. But it's also not the end. There's also a whole next 3, 4, 5 chapters of the story, and a whole new set of things I can do right now.
Scarcity and anxiety are like best friends.
Yes.
And then, you know, like abundance and feeling relaxed and in flow and kind of accepting of life are also, they go really nicely together. So it's almost like trying to pick one camp. And if you feel like you're always in the kind of anxious camp, it's like, you know, how do I get myself over to the other side of it a little bit?
I think we put this to the test a little bit. You know, I've been in your home watching for the last couple months, as, you know, you guys are working, but also, you know, are about to become parents. And I thought, you know, that's probably, if I were in your shoes, I'd have some anxiety about that. Have you guys developed any strategies, anything like, or use strategies that you already have mentioned in this episode to help curb some of those anxieties? I'm curious if anything comes up.
I'm trying. So, okay, let me think. What are my anxieties about having a child on the way? I really like my routines, and my routines are part of what kind of keep me sane and keep my mental health in check. So I think that I probably have an anxiety around, you know, losing routine or feeling like, you know, there's going to be just something that's just incredibly disruptive and is going to throw me off that track. And if I get thrown off, that catastrophic thought is, if I get thrown off that track, my mental health is going to suffer, and then work's going to suffer. And then, so there's probably, that's an anxiety. We were with friends the other day, and one of that, they had a child a year ago. And one of the pieces of advice they gave us was like, you have like 3 or 4 big things that you do in your life that are really important to you. And the advice that no one ever gave us, that I think is really good advice, is like, figure out now which one is going to take a back seat. Like, which one are you going to drop for a while? And the guy was talking to us, and he was like, for me, it was working out. Like, work remained really important because I'm in the middle of starting a company. Our relationship remained really important. Baby was really important. But working out went out the window to me. And the whole time he was speaking, I just went, I don't know. There's none I want to drop. Like there's not an area I can think of right now that I'm like, yeah, that one takes a back seat. So a part of how I mitigate that right now is that because we have months ahead of that, I'm like, okay, let's start to ask these questions, and let's also put some real strategies in place. Like, what do we need to do in order to actually prepare ourselves for this so that it doesn't just sneak up on us? And we've done a lot of that. Like, we've done a lot of thinking about it, a lot of strategizing. So we're not going in blind to that. I think I'm trying to think where else my head goes that relaxes me and takes me away from anxiety. I think that I have role models in my life that are extremely busy people who, some of them are like the most positive people I've ever met when it comes to having kids. So I choose to focus on them. Like, there's no shortage of people who immediately get negative when you ask them about kids. It's crazy. Like, it's such a form of, like, I think cathartic venting for people that they want to be seen for how hard it's been.
It's a coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism. So you ask them about kids and they're like, oh, get ready. Get
You'll never
ready.
sleep again.
Enjoy your time now. And you're like, this is so not, I get why people do it. I do. But it's absolutely the opposite of what I need to hear for any of my own anxieties about it. So I proactively, like, I spotlight the stories. I'm like, what's like a show? I'm like 60 Minutes in my own life for the people that talk about it beautifully. I'm like, you're my comp. You're my case study. Like, you're who I'm focusing on. And when I do that, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going to be, of course it's going to be messy. And of course we're not going to have it all figured out. And we're not going to be ready in every way. And we can't strategize for every part of it. But everyone, like all these people I admire who talk about it, they look at it as this expansive thing. Like, it expanded them, it expanded their world. And I focus on that, and I'm like, well, whatever happens, this is going to be a really expansive experience. And whatever structure I lose, I'm going to gain in my ability to expand and my ability to pour that back into also my creativity and how we help people and all of that. So I think that's where I reorient my focus. I choose different people to focus on. I choose my stories very carefully for who I'm looking at. I really don't listen a lot to the people who predict doom. And we're also doing work to strategize ahead of time. I think that's how I mitigate it.
It's really good answers.
What about you?
Oh God, I have to follow that.
I probably stole
really
a lot of
thought
your
about
answers.
What am I anxious about? My main anxiety is I'm not going to like it, which is crazy because, like, I wanted to have a child, and if I couldn't, I would be sad that I wasn't doing it. So it's not like this was unplanned and like a surprise, but now it's happening. It's like, it's happening, like you just have this extra thing that's just going on and you can't really control it. And you're then going to be responsible for their happiness forevermore and make sure that they're okay. And that's really exciting to me. But I get anxious that what if I don't like it and then I can't like go back, which apparently is a normal fear to have. And I think for me, I mitigate that by just reminding myself that I really wanted this. And also, like, I think so much of life is what you choose it to be. Like, I think if you go into it going, this is going to be amazing, if every moment that is amazing, you recognize, appreciate, are grateful for how amazing it is. For the hard moments, you just recognize that it's hard, but everything's a phase. Whether it's in your, with you being single right now and struggling with being single, it's a phase. Like, you're not always going to be single. You're going to date people. You're going to be in relationships. Those relationships may last, they may end. Everything ebbs and flows. Everything's impermanent. And having a child is kind of the same thing, right? It's like, maybe there's, whether it's newborn or 2 or whatever, there's like harder moments than others, but they're all phases. And I kind of feel like if I don't like it in a moment, it doesn't mean I'm not going to like it forever. And I think, I just think it's going to be what I make of it. And if I think it's going to be great and I appreciate it for all of the goodness that it brings me, and, you know, more love and all of those things, then it helps with that thought.
I always love when you say that everything's a phase. I think that's a really encouraging and empowering thought.
Yeah, and it's really applicable to everything in life. You know, our suffering makes us feel that we will always feel like this. Like, it's kind of what we were saying about this anxiety. It ties back perfectly. It's, you know, someone's not texting you back. You're sat there looking at your phone and you're going, I will not be okay because this person hasn't texted me and I will never hear from them again. And therefore I will never find love. And I cannot get back out there and face another person, another date, another disappointment in love. But like, everything's a phase, and you felt that before, and you also felt really happy before, and you will feel happy again, and you will feel excited about someone, and you will be in love, and you will maybe fall out of love or maybe not. Like, it's just, everything is just going to change. Like, that is the one thing you can guarantee in life, is that it all changes. And at the end of your life, you're kind of on your own. So it's sort of like everything that happens in your life and comes into it, whether it's a child, whether it's a disappointment in love, whether it's a great love, whether it's a great job or whatever, like, what you can know for sure is that that will eventually end. Whether you die, they die, it ends because it ends. You retire, they leave you, you leave them, whatever. Like, everything will have an end. And in the end, you're just going to look at your life and be like, did I have a good life? Did I have a lot of love in my life? A lot of great relationships in my life? And I don't know. I know it's like a very easy thing to say, because when you're stuck in your anxiety, I appreciate that that's not really helpful. But I do think that everything is a phase, and we can't get too attached either way to the good and the bad, because it's not sticking around.
Yeah, sometimes I do tap into, and that was beautiful. Thank you. Sometimes I do tap into that thought of just even looking back and being like, do I want to look at my whole life and realize I spent so much of it just not enjoying those parts?
Yeah, like
do I want to look at so many days that I spent in thinking about the future?
Such a good point.
And just as simple as that, it's just, sometimes I'm just like, let's just make this day a day that I don't
feel bad about.
I don't feel bad and worry. Like, I actually just embrace it and enjoy it. And because one day I'll think, oh my God, when I was in my 30s, that was the best.
Yeah. I really relate to that. I spent so much of my 20s my 20s were really, really tumultuous, and they were really difficult years for me. And like, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of, you know, I experienced depression, a lot of different things like that. And I look back at my 20s with almost like a bit of grief, because I feel like, oh, if I knew then what I know now about happiness and chasing the wrong things, and, you know, like, in some cases, like self-medicating it with different things in my life to make myself feel better, I would have had such a nicer experience of being 20 something. But my 20s was so rough, and like, I just look at my life now in my 30s and I'm like, I just really wish I could like give myself those lessons. And so I don't want to your point, like, do the same thing when I'm 40 and look at my 30s and be like, look at how much I worried about this and that. And it's a work in progress, because I definitely am very anxious still today about various different things. But I think that's such a good point, Stephen.
So guys, we have been talking about the emotions that take us over. In the case of this episode, we've been talking specifically about anxiety. But if you're anything like me, your brain is not one that is naturally just calm. You get triggered. Life, if you're not careful, can turn into a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And especially when you get sucked into an emotion like anxiety, if you're not careful, it can be very hard to get out of it again. And then we become reactive, we make mistakes, we do things we wish we hadn't done. Not to mention, we just find that life is a lot less enjoyable. We feel tortured. We feel unable to enjoy our day or be present. I've had that feeling so many times in my life where I'm not able to really enjoy the moment in what I'm doing because I'm just spiraling emotionally. It's because of this that I created a concept I call emotional buttons. And this is more than a concept. It's a set of tools that I use in my life every single day. I spoke about it earlier in this episode. I couldn't be more passionate about this particular subject because it's one of the tools that I found most useful in my life for controlling my emotions and for being able to put an end to negative emotions when I feel them and bring about really positive, beautiful states. I'm saying this because over the last 17 years, I have been teaching a session on my retreat program all about emotional buttons as a tool and how to use it. And so many of you have DM'd me over the years saying that you struggle with anxiety, many struggle with depression, many struggle with self-doubt, and don't know how to get out of those states. So I wanted to do something for a limited amount of time where I took my session from the retreat on emotional buttons and shared part of it with you free of charge so that you can just experience this tool for yourself. Whether or not you get to a retreat, I want you to be able to experience this tool. Of course, my hope is that you come and join me on the retreat because it's truly a life-changing program and this is one of many tools I give you. But at the very least, I actually want you as a listener of this podcast to be able to access this tool and start using it. And if this episode is resonating with you, then I know this tool is going to be life-changing for you. People fly from all over the world to experience it, and you can experience part of that literally right now by going to insidetheretreat.com, which is where I have put this session temporarily for you to go and experience it. So maybe you're in an emotion like that right now and you want to change it, then perfect, the timing is amazing. Or maybe you just know you have a pattern of being on these emotional cycles in your life and you know you're going to need it again an hour from now and tomorrow and the next day, in which case you can watch it multiple times before it disappears. No matter what, go watch it while it's there. It's at insidetheretreat.com, and you'll see what I mean when I say that this tool has changed the lives of thousands of people who have been to a retreat, who are now out there using it in their daily lives. Go check it out. I'll see you there. And now back to the episode. Well, we have a love life line here from Laverne, who says, I just watched your YouTube video about being anxious when dating, and this is exactly what I am dealing with. I have been dating this guy for only a few weeks, and I am going through severe anxiousness about him going out with the guys. The first time it was to a hockey game and renting a motel room. I would have been okay with the hockey game, but the motel room triggered me. Why did he need to rent a motel room when he lives in the burbs of the city and close enough to go home after the game? I can understand a few beers with the guys afterwards, but the mention of the motel room brought my anxiety through the roof. I obviously have trust issues around dating. I cut him off for a bit, then once I felt okay, re-established contact again. Now he is out of town for work, and when we talked earlier in the day, I told him I was falling in love. Later in the evening, I text him and he was short and in a hurry, and he tells me that he is going to the pub to eat and he will message me later. No problem, but once it gets close to midnight and I realize his later meant not after he ate, but some other time, not in that same day, I freaked again. I don't know him enough to know if he is a huge flirt or a serial cheater, and he obviously meant he was having a night out at the pub, not just a meal. It's too much anxiety for me, and I just don't know if I can do this relationship. I don't feel secure, and I am so scared of getting cheated on and not cared about enough. help
I
Laverne?
would feel the same way as Laverne.
So you feel what she's worried about actually is legitimate?
Well, I don't know if it's legitimate. I don't know if he's actually, going off and doing a bunch of untoward things, but I would feel exactly the same way, Laverne. So I want to validate.
So
your
if someone said they're
emotions.
going to a game, but they're getting a motel room afterwards, even though they live not that far away.
I could see how that would trigger me in like an early dating situation with someone I don't know who I really like. Especially if they were like, because it sounds almost like that wasn't premeditated. It sounds like it just happened. Yeah. So I get it. I would find that to be a little bit uncomfortable.
And he said he's out of town for work. And she's then said to him, I'm falling in love. And then he's sort of, it sounds like a bit short in that same day and in a hurry, and goes to the pub to eat and doesn't even message her back that same day.
Yeah, I just, my principle here, which I think is really important, is like your intuition here is telling you, you said it, you spelt it out, Laverne, I don't feel safe in this relationship. And I don't think the person who is right for you makes you feel this unsafe this early on. And even if he just has a different communication style, he is just someone who enjoys going out with his friends, doing whatever he likes to do, and there's nothing to do with other women, and he's not going to cheat and whatever, he may still just not be the right person for you.
So it's not necessarily that he's doing something wrong, although he could be, but who knows? Even if he's not, you're saying it's a compatibility issue.
Yeah, I had a boyfriend when I was in my 20s. I was with him for a few years, and he was very much like loved going out, loved being with his friends, loved partying, loved all of that stuff. And we were 20 something, so fine. But it just always made me anxious. It always made me anxious because I wouldn't hear from him. I wouldn't know where he was, all of those things. Like, and when I was with you, when you and I were dating, one of the things I really appreciated about you, and I'm sure you appreciated about me.
I'm a massive introvert.
Kinda, like you're not that person and I'm not that person. And I think that was really, that made us very compatible, because then it wasn't like I feel massively unsafe because every other weekend you're going out, staying out, I don't hear from you. And I just have to trust that like there's nothing untoward happening. And if my trauma and my triggers mean that I struggle to believe that, I'm just constantly living in a state of feeling anxious, and I just don't want to.
Thank you so much, Laverne, for that question. Really, really great question. If you want to email us your question, email podcast@matthewhussey.com. Tell us your opinions on the episode, your thoughts, any stories, any questions you have. Not too long, because if you write 1,000 words, we probably won't be able to read it on the show. If you can keep your emails to like 200 to 300 words, that's the optimal length for us to read them out and answer your questions. podcast@matthewhussey.com.
Hey guys, I know it's the summer holidays and so many of you are going to be booking trips, travel and holidays. So we wanted to bring to you what is one of our favorite travel hacks when we go away, and that is to get an eSIM. I don't know if you guys have had this experience before, but either one of two things happens when you go away. Either you come home after a week, 2-week long trip to a phone bill that makes your eyes water and you cannot believe you spent so much money. Or you make a commitment, like I have done many times in the past, not to use your data. You turn all of your data settings off and you end up spending the entirety of your trip trying to chase down Wi-Fi in dodgy internet cafes and restaurants, which is no fun. This is why when Matt and I travel now, we always use an electronic SIM, and a company that is really, really great to use because of how user-friendly they are is Saily.
We are using Saily for our trip that's coming up to London. We're going to be there for 4 weeks. So we don't want to face the charges for roaming that we would have over a month in London with our American SIMs. So instead, we're using Saily. It's super affordable. We literally just downloaded the app, bought our plan, and then from the moment we land in London, it activates. And actually, there's even a security feature you can turn on inside the app that blocks the malicious ads that we get when we're abroad and also creates a safer browsing experience. You can get this too for your next trip. If you just go to your app store for either Android or iOS and download the Saily app, spelt SAILY. You can download the app, and when you get to checkout, use the discount code LOVELIFE for a 15% discount on your first purchase. If you're anything like me, you forget this stuff, so try to do it now while you remember before your next trip. And that way, when you're there, you have peace of mind that you're not being charged a fortune for being abroad. Go to the App Store, download Saily, use the discount code LOVELIFE for 15% off. We had some comments on some recent episodes. Episode 305, subtle flirting signs that actually work. Someone emailed in to podcast@matthewhussey.com. Thanks for your podcast on flirting. Something that kept coming up for me was that I resist flirting at times because I'm afraid that if I open that door, because at that time I'm feeling confident, willing to take a risk, or feeling silly, and end up not being interested in the person, I'll have trapped myself in a situation where I now have to let them down.
I relate to that.
Is this something you can speak to? Well, Audrey, as someone who relates to that,
I relate
what would
to
you
that.
say to this person?
That feels a bit avoidant, right?
Yeah, no, it is. I relate to that. I don't know how to combat it other than just like, I think you just have to pick your regrets, right? It's like, are you going to go the rest of your life not actually putting yourself out there and therefore not having opportunities with people you do like? Or are you going to sometimes get it wrong and, attract someone that you decide you don't like? And it's okay. Like, people can take a rejection. We're all, we all have broad shoulders. And I think if you just flirt with somebody and you end up deciding you no longer feel that way, you can definitely kind of go back to being far more friendly and making that clear. So just don't overthink it and don't let that mindset block you. But I do relate to it.
Even the loveliest people in the world have to reject people and be the villain to some people. That's just the way it is. R. Chowder said about the same episode 305 on flirting, the soft crab comments made me laugh so much. You guys are cute. What was the soft crab comment?
I said soft crab instead of soft shell crabs. I also got a lot of DMs on Instagram regarding a lot of people messaged me about.
What were they saying? Like, it's okay?
No, they were just laughing and saying they liked
just
it.
laughing
Someone
at
sent
you.
me a meme.
I like the person who sent this comment is called Chowder.
Yes,
I know. I thought that. It was very...
Do you think they set up that account specifically for crab comments?
No, I think they're called Chowder and they heard crab and were like,
Well, I think
This is my domain.
hello?
chowder doesn't usually involve crab, so it's like it's nice to see the downfall of a not used ingredient.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Chowder, thank you for that comment. These were about that episode on YouTube. Share Sale 6480 said, I quite enjoyed Stock Talk Flirtation Edition. Please play it again. The fact that
game.
you talked about it as an edition of a game that had never been done before.
What are you talking about?
I mean, you didn't just call it Stock Talk.
And I think
For anyone who wants to know, this is where Stephen held up a bunch of stock photos that had been found by David, and we had to explain. We had to give examples of how you'd flirt in that particular situation. Some of these stock photos were absolutely bizarre. I don't know what you'd be using them for.
This is a classic game. We've played it 100 times in the podcast. And
Name me one other edition we've ever done of Stock Talk.
There's texting edition.
Never happened.
There's workplace edition.
You're gaslighting Matt right now.
There's gaslighting
Stock Talk
edition.
Gaslighting edition.
I do
I
think
know.
Matt called it our worst one, or the one that he thought was the
And
worst.
and by the way, it's got the most comments. Rolo Lil Red on YouTube says, OMG, please play that game again. Alias Sarisha says, this was my first episode of the podcast and Steve Sleeves had me dying. Great episode all around. Cheers. Soupson said, can I say I'm about to pee my pants from laughing so hard with the cactus picture in Stock Talk Flirtation Edition. Someone said, I feel like that tree guy is my soulmate. You're going to have to go back and watch this episode, everyone. I love the game at the end of the episode. It was so funny. Thank you. So clearly a lot of love
winner.
for Stock Talk Flirtation Edition. People apparently loved that edition of it, David. The only edition that's ever existed. This was a email sent in on episode 257, which was about how you shouldn't let your anxiety sabotage your relationship. So if you want a great pairing with this episode, go back and listen to episode 257. This came in from Alexa. She said, "Hi, Matthew and Audrey. I just listened to your podcast and it really struck a chord with me. The thing that really helped me and will guide me in approaching those moments of anxiety differently is this analogy: awareness, sitting with the feeling, letting it pass, and laughing at it, versus taking the wheel and continuing to drive. I think I often try to jump to feelings of safety and comfort, so I spiral and create stories in my head to justify why things appear the way they do. This is me continuing to drive, but it's not safe driving. I'm going to practice pulling over, letting the feeling pass, and then getting back on the road again after a good laugh. Appreciate you for everything you do, Alexa." That again came into podcast@matthewhussey.com, which anyone listening can email. Thank you all for those wonderful comments. I look forward to the comments on this episode. Few things have helped my anxiety more than talking to the right person at the right time. That is why I created Matthew AI, so that people could talk to me and ask me a question any time they wanted when they were in an anxious state. So if you have something on your mind right now, maybe you're trying to craft the perfect response to someone and you're overthinking it. Maybe their behavior is confusing you and you need my help decoding what it means. Or maybe you're just in such a triggered state right now that you're in danger of acting in an extremely reactive way that runs the risk of sabotaging it altogether. Matthew AI can help you with your response, help you decode behavior, and help you get out of the state you're in so that you can react with calm and confidence. And you can try it for free by going to askmh.com. So think of the one thing you'd love to ask me right now and go ask me at askmh.com. We have come to that time. It is time for Steve's sleeve.
And you know, I'm curious because the prevailing note from our last rendition of the Steve Sleeves title music, we'll call it title music, was that it was a little low beat. I'm curious from folks watching, do they think that? We'll recompose. I mean, we have the talent, and I'm not bitter about this at all.
Right. No,
but
clearly.
This isn't coming from like a spiteful place.
No.
This is purely for the knowledge and for the comfort of the viewers.
Okay,
Market research.
We'll play it again. And you tell us, let's let the people vote. Do you want a more upbeat, sassy version of the Steve Sleeves theme song?
Sassy.
Or, do you want something a bit cheekier?
Yeah.
Or
No,
do
I
you...
like sassy.
You like sassy. Okay, well,
I don't know what it means. I don't know like how that manifests.
just something,
but
just
I'm
do you want
excited
something with a little bit more of a upbeat kind of feel? Or do you like the soothing tones of the current Steve Sleeves song?
And I appreciate that you've kind of added a leading question in that might signal what your desire is.
No,
Matt.
I'm actually very much 50-50. I wouldn't have even thought this. It got brought up and I'm just giving people a fair chance to vote. So let us know, email podcast@matthewhussey.com and tell us, stick with the sleeves
or a new pair of garments.
Exactly.
Or the same pair of garments, just dressed up.
Just dressed
Sassy.
up, styled a little better.
With a bit of sass.
Let us know.
I know, I quite like a bossa nova sort of vibe we had, but
Well, let's see.
Again,
Let's see
email
what
a
the people
subject
want.
line, same sleeves, if you want to keep it. If you want
and
to...
sassy sleeves if you want to change it.
I love it.
Okay,
And
fine.
with that,
new breeches.
With that,
Steve
this
Sleeves.
is Steve's Sleeves.
Don't be bereaved. You know that we can't leave without another episode of Steve Sleeves.
All right, so go on then. What is it today?
Okay, well, this isn't as wacky as the last one. Actually, it's more about...
Somber.
It's not somber either. It's about you two and your anxieties.
Oh.
So we are actually going to do,
Oh dear.
and it can't be about having a child. So I want you to look at one of your historic anxieties, and we're going to do the 3-part reality check with you. I want to hear your trigger, your story, and some facts / challenging it with evidence.
This is an ambush. This Steve Sleeves is an ambush.
It always is.
3-column reality check.
It always
trigger,
is.
Story, facts.
I'll track along with you guys.
And so the facts can just be raw facts about what's true, or you can challenge with past evidence.
So is this like an anxiety we've had in the past or one we have now?
What it can be in the past, one you've faced a lot in your life, one that you've learned how to deal with. And I want to know, like, what sets it off, and what's the story you tell yourself when that anxiety happens that makes it worse.
Yeah, and your answer can't be Steve Sleeves itself.
That gives me anxiety sometimes.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety too.
Okay. A common trigger in my life has been having said something that will come off the wrong way. Like,
Oh yeah, I know this about you.
I wish I hadn't said it that way. You know, if it in a one-on-one situation, there's like two versions of it, right? In a one-on-one situation, it would be, how vulnerable shall I get?
As vulnerable as you want.
That's not an answer.
Yeah, it is.
Vulnerable do you want me to
It's
be?
the rule of the sleeves. It's all truth here.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So look, one would be in a personal situation, having said to like something to a friend or someone I know.
Like a personal criticism of them, or something very direct that you feel has...
No, like it could be something I've said in a message to them or whatever that I think has like come off the wrong way.
Being misconstrued.
Yeah, and then maybe I don't get a text back for a few hours and I think, oh no, I'm right. It did come across badly, or it did, I shouldn't have said it that way, or whatever. And now I'm sort of, if I'm not careful, I get in my head and spin out.
And what's the story you tell yourself?
Probably, I think the surface level story is that they're mad at me, or that they are, either that they're mad at me or that they're turned off in some way.
And is there a fear?
Or that I've come across maybe a bit desperate,
Right.
something like that. And a bit like a bit needy or a bit something. I've not come across very confident. And I think the deeper story, the surface level kind of thing is like, oh, they're mad at me or they've come across badly or whatever. I think the even deeper story is I've been found out.
Right.
Like I've been discovered. I'm not as confident, or I'm not as nice, or I'm not as,
right,
lovable, or I'm not, whatever it may be. I've been, oh no, like they've seen me for who I really am, and that obviously comes from a deep sense of being a deep fear. I've worked on this, by the way. I've gotten much better at this.
You have got much better.
I've got much better.
Do you have some fear you're not a good person? Do you have some fear you're like actually a needy person? Is that the
I've definitely had the fear a lot in my life that I'm not a good person.
right?
Like that's been like
Which is crazy. Like, I don't want anyone listening to think that you're saying that because you somehow
because I'm an evil genius.
Because you're like an evil person who does bad things.
I don't think that person worries about
the
that.
best person I know. And so it's crazy.
Oh,
It's true.
Thank you.
that's coming from the fuzzy duck. Audrey's wearing a top that makes her
all
look
our
like a fuzzy duck.
Audio listeners.
Even though you do the ear AirPod thing to me, you're a very good person.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What are some facts?
I don't do the AirPod.
What are some facts or challenging with evidence you can do in that moment to help you?
I remind myself of all the moments that I am extremely high in. I mean, I'm extremely high in conscientiousness in general, which is why I worry. Like, it's one of the reasons that I worry so much.
You worry about people's feelings and reactions a lot.
A lot. And I don't think a bad person spends this much time worrying about people's feelings. The idea that I've hurt someone is like the worst, that's terrible to me. I remind myself of all of the ways that I've shown up for people in my life. I remind myself of there was a story that really encapsulated this for me, actually. When I was at school, there was a kid in my class. This was like this was like not even teenage school. We would have been, what year was like prep school? Was that like 7?
7 to
we
11.
Like age 7.
11.
I think I was like, I was 7. That's right, because it was in the first year. So I was 7 years old. And there was a guy that I was friends with over time, but I found out that he had been like taking my like food every day with he'd been.
Was this Stephen?
It wasn't it wasn't Stephen.
You found that out pretty quick.
I had like my snacks for the day and stuff, but every day they would just disappear from my bag. And then I found out that he had been doing that, and I told on him, and I never stopped feeling bad, because I also felt a bit of glee in telling on him. I remember that feeling. And then I felt so much shame for years, not only at having told on him, but having felt a sense of like glee about it, like almost making fun of it, like that I was going to get him in trouble. And that's really like stuck with me. And
you terrible human being.
But as an adult, I bumped into him, and we said hi and that, and he said, I was like, he said to me, I always remember you at school because when I started, I was on my own in the lunch hall, and I would sit on my own every day, and you saw me sitting on my own, and you came over to me and said, no one should have to sit on their own. He said to me, like, you don't have to sit with me, it's okay. And I said, no one should have to sit alone during lunch. And the funny thing is, I have no recollection of that whatsoever. I don't remember it happening. I don't remember saying it, but he remembers. Like, that was what in my head, I'm like, he would never have forgotten the fact that I got him in trouble.
Maybe he doesn't know you ratted
He was probably
him out.
nervous. He was probably nervous because he had all your snacks in his bag.
So for the fact I wrote,
Don't sit with me.
I felt bad for ratting on my friend when he stole my snacks. I then sat with him when he was alone during lunch. Cool guy move.
Right.
I think I spelled during wrong too. Is it 2 hours?
No, 1 hour.
What? 1 hour.
So I guess what I'm saying is that was like epitomized that what I do to myself in general, which is remember, like, take stock of all of the things I've done that I feel a lot of shame over, and, not connect to moments where I've shown up and disprove that idea that I'm not a good person. But I say this having done an immense amount of work in this area. Audrey will tell you this has been like a journey for me, but that's definitely like, trigger is said something that came off the wrong way. Story is, they're mad at me, or I've been discovered. Now they know, or, and a version of that could be I'm a bad person and they've seen it. And then the facts is I spend time connecting with all of the evidence that is just simply not the story, which I've found immensely helpful. So it's very validating for what do you call this?
This is the 3-column reality check.
Right. It's very validating for the 3-column
It's just to
reality
give yourself
check.
new evidence and reference points.
Yeah.
Audrey, do you have one?
Do I have one?
I feel intensely vulnerable having done that, by the way. I feel very naked right now.
I hope you don't. Now I feel anxiety for coming off the wrong way by saying ratting. I was trying to be playful, and now that you're vulnerable,
You've stoked that.
I feel bad.
It's very triggering, that phrase, David.
I'm gonna turn it to.
I feel yeah, the way you phrased it in the facts, I felt bad for ratting on my friend.
I wanted a reaction.
Friend is in caps. All caps.
I don't think I went too far enough, and so now it's in this spot of I feel like an asshole. So I'm redacting that.
Okay.
I'm gonna redact it. Redacted.
I think people will like this a lot. I thought that was really, really lovely.
Yeah, I agree. It was
Yeah.
honest.
I know Audrey's got one.
What would be so can you go up to trigger, story, facts? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think if I'm being like honest, you were honest, so I'm going to be honest too. As in like, not that I wasn't going to be honest, but I'm going to be like vulnerable. I think I have a trigger. A trigger might be like, you know, we're really busy with work. And this actually happened recently. I didn't get back to a friend. And I assumed we'd locked in plans because to me, we'd locked in plans. And I was just like kind of firing off messages and, you know. But then in the meantime, that friend had sent me a voice note to basically ask about the plans and, you know, lock something in. I didn't listen to the voice note because I was busy. Comes the day, I text her going, you know, what do you want to do tonight? Blah, blah, blah. And she sort of was like, well, I didn't think it was happening because you never got back to me. And then there was this sort of like moment where I felt like she was mad at me and that I had kind of like somehow been like just selfish and inconsiderate and whatever. So a trigger like that would then make me feel like almost like this person's not going to want to be my friend or I'm going to be left. And I'm only using that as an example because it's like the most recent one that happened. This happened yesterday. And the trigger will always be like something like that. Or it might be you and I have an argument or something and you are a bit mad at me and I go, oh my God, this argument means that he's going to leave me and never speak to me again. It's like very like dramatic, jumping to very dramatic conclusions over very little things. So the story will be like,
they're going to leave
They're going to leave me. They're not going to want to be my friend, or they're not going to like me anymore, or they're going to leave me, or like whatever. And what was the last bit?
The facts.
The facts. Well, what I tell myself is like, the real people in my life who love me won't leave me because of miscommunications or small fights or, you know, me getting something a little bit wrong, even if I do make a mistake. And I also tell myself, like, I always take every bit of accountability for everything, sometimes when even it's not fully my fault. Because my instinct is to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I completely messed up, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I didn't really mess up. It was a bit of a miscommunication in the example of my friend.
The fear makes you overdo the apology or take too much accountability or like you then go too extreme with it. I relate to
too
that.
far the other way.
Yeah.
And so then that's also a bit of a kind of like thing that I tell myself, which is like, don't do that thing where then you go too far the other way and then you're like, you know, 2 days later, you're like, wait a minute, I didn't really do anything wrong here. And I've just ended up kind of like, just from that response of like that fear tried to kind of like make it better. But yeah, being left, anxiety about being left and people I love, like not being in my life anymore.
And do you also not have evidence like you have loads of friends? Like you have more friends
way more than me and Steve.
Yeah, you have more friends than most of us who you spend a lot of time with.
But yeah, but then I always feel like my friends, like, that's the thing. It's really interesting, right? I think there's like a thing, an anxiety in my friendships, not all of my friendships, but in some of my friendships that like maybe someone won't like me or like I'll do something that will make them no longer want to be my friend. So I don't really like get a lot of comfort from that because I don't feel like necessarily, does that sound weird?
That you think like there's the fear in you says they're precarious.
Yeah. Like most things are precarious. It took me a very long time to not feel like things were precarious in our relationship. I do now. I feel very much like we fight, and I'm a bit like, whatever, it's fine. Like I don't need it to be resolved right now, like right away. We resolve it so quickly anyway as well, which is kind of like something we've learned to do. But like, I don't feel like that, and that anxiety that I used to feel. But it took me years.
I also think that over time I've developed an association that the friendships that really matter are the ones that can weather storms, and someone can be upset with you, and you can have that conversation, and you can have done wrong, or you can have like ignored them, but you have that conversation and you come out the other side of it. And that's kind of the robustness of the relationship speaks to the depth of the relationship, and those are the relationships that remain.
And I want to just add one last thing to that, which is, in the context of everything we've been talking about in this massively long episode today, when we're anxious in early dating, or in early stages of a relationship, what we're afraid of is like, I'm going to make a wrong move and then everything's going to go away. And it really does it speaks quite a lot to what our anxieties are here, really, which is like, everything is very precarious. But, the right people in your life, to your point, they won't expect you to score a perfect score all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And actually forming an authentic connection isn't about being perfect. It's about being yourself, and that particular version of you being the kind of person that somebody else is looking for and that works and fits with them. It's not, people who are actually being intentional about looking for love, they're not looking for a perfect person. They're just looking for a match for them.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Stephen? Can we do your review?
Why don't we haven't got time.
We're out of time, everyone. So
I also want to call out that we said it before, but this was part of your course in the Love Life Club, and this was one of my favorite portions of the course, and I thought it was a really cool, very simple way to reframe anxiety. It kind of lays it out in a way that even just looking at it makes it a little less scary.
I'm excited to see this course. I know you just shot it. So for anyone who does want to see it, it's going to be included inside the Love Life coaching program for all of our members. So members, be on the lookout for Stephen's new course on anxiety in dating.
And as always, thanks for playing Steve Sleeves.
I'm not so sure I wanted to play this Steve Sleeves.
I feel like I've been
I think I'm
therapized.
starting to think I preferred Stock Talk Flirtation Edition.
A lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And don't forget, if you are struggling with the things that we have talked about in this episode, whether it's anxiety or being down on yourself or self-doubt or whatever your particular go-to emotion is, and when you get there, you don't know how to get out of it, the session that I'm sharing with you on emotional buttons is one of the great master keys to overcoming that. The tool that I give you in this session is something that I use every single day of my life. I cannot stress that enough. And it has helped so many people that I've taught it to. You can get it by going to insidetheretreat.com, which is where I'm sharing this session. So make sure to go and get it now while it's there. Insidetheretreat.com is the link. Thank you, and we will see you next time.